Bryan Wetzel, thank you so much for coming on the Edison podcast. I appreciate you being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm looking
My
forward
pleasure.
to it.
We've been talking about weather and the issues that we've had today. So you're in Georgia. Is that where you have always been?
I grew up here. My family's from New York and Pennsylvania. I was actually born in Germany. My dad was in the service, and we moved back to Pennsylvania. But I've been here since I was 2. But when I graduated high school, I was like, oh, I went out of this small town and moved to New York. Then I was in California, or was in LA for a while. I lived in Las Vegas, and I've been all over the country. But I ended up getting hooked up with a job, and oddly enough brought me back to Georgia, and I've just been here ever since.
Okay. Now, because you wear many hats, from what I understand, from everything I read about you, what do you do? So you're an entrepreneur, author, media producer. Now, do you work for a company or do you work for yourself now?
I work for myself. I used to contract or consult for a couple of media companies here in town. But I let that go about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's just me now. And in the past, probably 8 years, I've owned a restaurant and a couple gyms, and I still do have a small company where I'll do some media stuff for people. But for the most part, it's just entrepreneurship.
So
one of the things about entertainment is that when you get older, sometimes people start bumping you out. They want, younger people doing things as if you're not going to be up on the times. And it just got to be thinner and thinner. And I was already running some small businesses, and I just decided to lean into that a little bit more.
So let's get into that. So what have you created with your entrepreneurialism?
Well, I've like I said, I've had restaurants, a couple gyms. Right. One of the things that recently,
because you see, according to what I read, you had you do video editing, restaurant, gym, and then you do an education startup. Did you do something like that?
We let the assets for that be sold off recently. A lot of it's still on YouTube. That was actually one of the companies I was the most proud of. We created 1,500 educational videos for K through 12 education, and we had a little over 3,000 online assessments and tests for those videos, and we ended up letting those go to another company that could take it a little farther than we could. And I'll be honest, my first book was about education in America, because it was a lot of what I saw when I was working with schools and school districts was a bit alarming. And so it really was bothering me, and I decided it took me about 4 years to write the book. I interviewed teachers and administrators who had retired, because a lot of them wouldn't want to have their name out there while they're still working. And, I thought everyone should kind of know what, the things that I had seen and a lot of what I was hearing. Also, my wife is a public school teacher. She's in her 22nd year. And I just really felt strongly that people should hear what was really going on, at least from my point of view.
Is that
outside of that
book, the real problems that destroying education?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And my most recent book just came out a couple of months ago. It's Path to Faith Through Science and Common Sense. Another book that really just comes out of my heart is something that had been, as I traveled around the country doing production and doing media, I would run into different people and had some great conversations and lunches and dinners, and some of them were scientists, and then there were also experiences that happened to me, some of them after my mom passed, and I just felt like there was something more to what we're hearing on that subject. And I began doing my own research and interviewing people, and I put together a book that just sort of tells my story of how I, moved to, well, I grew up, in in the South, in a family that was Catholic. That was rare in the South. Most people are Baptist or, Church of God, Methodist. But I grew up with church in my life. But, as you get when you graduate and you move out, and you really don't think about that stuff as much as you probably should. And so the book's just really about all the things that happened to me that sort of pulled me back into being more a man of faith.
What got you to write the books? I mean, how did the process? I assume you published them like through Amazon and stuff like that, self-published.
Yep. They're self-published, but they're doing pretty well. They're in on Amazon. They're on Apple iBooks. You can buy through Barnes and Noble or anyone. You can get the print version if you want. They're in all the majors. I'll tell you this, if anyone's thinking about writing a book, because a lot of people will come up to me and say, I've always wanted to write a book. Don't take it lightly. It's a hard. I don't think I realized how hard it was, but, fortunately I have a lot of people I know in my life who were able to help me. I have some authors that I know of that are quite well known, who could give me some advice and sort of guide me and tell me, read some of the stuff that I was writing, kind of give me some guidance. And my wife is, like I said, she's a teacher, and she's very a stickler for English and grammar. And so, all of these things sort of helped push me towards finishing the book. And I almost didn't publish the first one because, I just, I kept reading it. I probably read it 50 times, but you would read it and go, maybe I should take that out. Maybe I should put this in. Maybe that's not written very clearly. I, had trouble. It's hard to be a perfectionist and read your stuff, especially a book that long, and think that it's done.
Well, I know when I finally put mine out, there were, a few people I know, once they got them, they're like, hey, there's a mistake on this page. Because you can, and one was a grammar, it was quality versus quantity. And if you're we all read it the way it should. It was wrong in the book, but we all read it correctly because that's how you're just going through the reading and catch it. But the guy who caught it was somebody in quality. He was like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's funny because
the funny thing about that is that sometimes I write like I talk. And so I need somebody to go, maybe shouldn't say it that way. But luckily with digital now, you can fix it and Amazon and everyone will let you upload a new file. But as far as the print books, once they're out there, the error is, it's staying.
And that's okay. But that's when you say, okay, this is our third publishing of this book. That's the first, so that's, you want to keep those are collector items. Tell them, I mean,
yeah.
If you go back, if you collect rare books, the ones with mistakes in the beginning, and those are worth more money. So I'm not saying your book's going to be worth money, but that's just,
it probably won't be, but
neither will
being
mine.
Realistic. That's actually a nightmare I think I had a couple of times, is that maybe I would be doing a podcast and someone would say, do you know you misspelled and I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. How could we have missed that after so many people read it? And now you have software that at least helps, get spelling and grammar correct. But there's always that concern that you'll look stupid because something is not correct.
Yeah, I had a guy from high school decide to find a few extra ones in there and post it on Facebook for me.
Oh, really?
It's like, if you want it, you could have just direct messaged me that. You didn't have to put it under a post under me. But thank you for that.
I take it that wasn't somebody you were close to.
No, no,
Yeah.
that's how he was in high school. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. That's not cool.
Which actually, I
That's
was
not
so
cool.
happy he found those, because what happened is somebody had messed up on a chart.
Mhm.
The digit, they'd messed up on a digit on the chart, and it threw off the whole chart. Well, all they had to do is change the one digit. The whole chart wasn't wrong. It was just the one digit up above. And once
Right.
I found that out, I was like, okay, that was fixed. Like you said, on, upload a new thing, done. Everybody else going forward gets the newer book with the right stuff. And so,
Right. It's hard. I don't, for people who, what you do and also writing books, like when you put yourself out there and then somebody comes and tries to rip on you about something I just see that as a low moment in their life, honestly.
yeah.
And you're
I
right. He
was,
could have reached out to you directly.
but that's not him. But I was actually happy he took the time to go through the book, find the issues for me so that I could fix them. It's just how you look at it. And I understand why he did it, but I didn't take it the way he did it, because I knew who he was. And I was like, okay, now I don't have to worry about it, because the people who helped me, they're like, you can keep going through this book over and over again. You're not going to, every book that goes out has an error, has a misspell. They have this, they all do, no matter who they are.
Yeah.
And then they fix
Yeah.
it. So just
I have a John Grisham book that has a misspelling in it. And I remember seeing it going, that's crazy.
Well, it just happens. I mean, because the problem is even the software that reads, it doesn't know if it's supposed to be quality or quantity.
Yeah. It also sometimes gets context wrong. So it corrects something that was, the thing is, the correct response to him would probably have been, well, thank you for buying the book.
Yeah. Well, I did say thank you for it, but next time I just said, thank you so much for doing this. Next time you could just direct message me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean, but again, it's just how people are. It's that whole thing. You have to get your stuff out there and not worrying about, you're going to make a mistake. That's okay. Things are going to happen. You just got to get it out and get moving. And then, because people will hold on to stuff for so long, won't put it out there, and then it's no longer relevant, and they don't do anything with it. Just get it out there. Yeah. Don't worry about it. And if someone says there was a mistake in there, you go, oh, well, see, I told you I didn't use AI.
Yeah.
I wrote it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's sometimes in the past, people have put mistakes in things to see if people read their book.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because then they go, oh,
I generally just quiz them if they say they read it.
Well, I mean, if they tell you that there was a mistake in there, then yeah, I understand what you're saying. But even with, certain things, they're like, oh, wow, you read my book. Thank you so much for reading it. I put that in there to see if, somebody would tell me.
That's funny, because I know someone who was getting his master's degree, and he didn't think that the professor was actually reading all of the student stuff. Maybe he was breezing through it. I don't know, trying to just get his work done. And I don't know how the professor was coming up with the grades, but he put a misspelling in there intentionally to see if it got caught, and it didn't, and he got an A.
So he was right.
He was right. Yeah. But like I said, that question is how was he grading everyone's paper, unless he was just throwing A's out randomly.
Right.
I have no idea.
Or if he had somebody else grading them and they just didn't care, some assistant.
That's possible. That's possible. I like this person, so he's got an A.
That's right. Hey, I don't like her. She's got a B. All right. So,
and that was like 20 years ago. So a lot of it wasn't digital. So you weren't online classes. So the professors actually saw you in the class every time. It wasn't like my stepdaughter right now is going to college, and some of her classes are online and some are actually in person. But it seems like more and more they're becoming online classes. And so you don't really know the professor. You just see a little icon in the corner. That's their picture.
Yeah. And you're going to see more.
And the professor only sees yours.
Yeah. You're going to see more AI teachers and everything else going forward. So
you will. One of the things, I was listening to a professor speak on this. I had never thought about this. He was saying that what he's starting to see is that the students in college, the body of their work during the year has gotten better, but their test scores are getting worse. And what he realizes is that they're using AI to write their homework and do their assignments. But since they're not actually writing it, when it comes time for the final, they don't know the material. And so, he was talking, the reason he was doing this speech was to come up, he was talking about ways to correct this. And one of the things he was suggesting is go back to having people handwrite their projects and their homework. Now they could still pull it up and copy it, but you're at least making them write down the material instead of copying and pasting.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that because someone asked me, do I think AI is making people dumber? And I'm like, if you're our age, or it's not, but if you're a kid who's not learning the stuff, I tell people, it's like, I worked in an office forever. If I work from home, it's not a big deal because I know how to talk to people. I know how to react around people but if I've never worked in an office and I'm working from home, I have no idea what etiquette is and what office is. And that you need to have that to build that up. And I think the same thing with the stuff about AI. There should be a way to shut it off from kids not being able to use it in college and certain things, just so that they actually have to learn it. And then as they get older, they can utilize it.
Well, there's a new movement now in some high schools, middle school. I can't even believe they have to do this for elementary, but elementary, middle, and high schools around the country have started banning cell phones from being in the classroom at all. And I'm surprised it took this long for them to get there with that. I was talking to, I think it was my stepson. He was talking about the kids had their phones out. He would have graduated from high school 5 years ago. The kids had their cell phones out the whole time the teacher's teaching. And you're like, well, are they paying attention to the teacher or are they answering texts from their girlfriend? I just can't believe that I was ever allowed, to be honest with you.
Well,
and now you have apps. You can literally point it at a math problem with your phone and it'll just solve the math problem for you.
Wow. Then why learn it?
Now, one thing's about AI, because someone was asked me, did you use AI to help with the writing? And I didn't, but Grammarly I use for helping with grammar. And they had a 30-day trial for their AI. And one of the things I tried, there'll be times when I would write a paragraph. I don't like the way that's worded. There's got to be a better way to phrase that. And I would try it. But one of the things I noticed about it, and I haven't tried any of the other ones or Chat GPT, but like I like to write with a little tongue-in-cheek humor on a lot of things. And my personality, the way I talk, shows up in the writing also. But when you put it through the AI, it was like a lawyer cleaning up all of the expressions. And like if I said something was so very large or so very great, it would just be, it was great. It homogenized it so much that I didn't want to use it anymore because I didn't feel like it sounded like me, number one. And it was boring. So I'm sure that'll get better because I've heard that coming down the line, you can literally ask Chat GPT, will you write this in the style of Hemingway or something? And it'll change your writing to look like Hemingway wrote it.
And
eventually
here's what I did, Brian. What I did is I dropped my book into Chat GPT and told it to scan it, read it, and then from there forward use it for my work so that whenever you write anything, you write it in my voice. And so then now it writes everything in my voice. So that's all you have to do is just drop in some writing materials that you've written and tell it to learn it. And then from there forward, use your voice. And it sounds so much better because you're right. Yeah. So once I did that,
so it learns your phrasing and your personality, and
from your writing, it will pick it up because it changed how everything is. And then sometimes I say, is this in my voice? Yes, it's in your voice. I'm like, okay, just checking. Because you got to, sometimes with the newer version, you got to tell it again. But see, Chat GPT-5 now goes all the way back to every GPT, every chat you created, and can grab all that information from the past.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because I use it
That's
so
going to
much.
put out a lot of people. When it comes to like crime, like I interviewed a gentleman in the 90s, and I can't remember his name because it was funny because he was like the bass player for a 60s band that was one hit wonder, but he had his doctorate in, it was, I guess it would be English or grammar, but he was a linguist, and he would be called on by the FBI so let's say I killed somebody and I wrote a suicide note that to make it look like they wrote the note. He would take other things that they wrote and compare it to the suicide note to see if, the phrasing, the way I use adjectives, the way align the sentences and stuff were consistent. And then he would make a recommendation that this was not written or was written by the person. And now that's a job that's going to be done in ChatGPT or another program, I guess. I actually know someone, there's a girl that comes to my gym. She just lost her job as a paralegal because a paralegal's job is to gather information, put it together, and give it to the lawyer about cases or previous cases. And that can be just done now. There's actually law AI programs that'll just do that for the lawyer. And that's a scary thing. Well, it's not scary for the lawyers, but it's scary for people who are losing their income.
Yeah, it's about learning how to use AI in your job, because even though AI can do that, it doesn't mean it's right. You have to verify it, because there was an attorney who got in trouble for using a case from ChatGPT that truly.
I saw that.
So I tell it to verify what it tells me, because there's now, if you haven't used it in a while, there's a thing called deep research. And I've never
used ChatGPT. I tried it once. There was a kid who asked me one day, he's like, could you get it to come up with the lottery numbers? And he worked for me. And I was like, are we allowed to curse? Mm-hmm. I was like, just for shits and giggles, let's try it. So I created an account. I logged in. I said, can you, based on the previous year's numbers for the Powerball, can you recommend? And at first it wouldn't do it. And I had to rephrase the question. And then it gave me, I think, 10 numbers. It said, these are the most likely numbers to come up. And I don't know if he played them. I don't play, but I don't know if they won or not. It would have been interesting to track it. Someone said you should write them down and then check it each time. And I thought, well, if I write them down on a piece of paper and then I look and see that I would have won, that'll haunt me. So I'll just not do that.
Well, I mean, I've used it since it came out in November of 22, and I use it like throughout the day constantly. I mean, because I even write my podcast things for this. I created a GPT where I drop in the name of my podcast, who the guest is, their information, and it writes the whole thing for me, which used to take me a half hour to an hour. Now it takes less than a minute. And because I do a daily one. So it makes it so much. I used to sit there for 2.5 hours, research all this stuff to find out for the daily show. And then now I don't have to do that at all.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now the cover of my faith book, which is a bridge that is leading up to the clouds, and the bridge is made up of binary code. I actually had Photoshop's AI create that for me. It took a while for me to figure out how to get the phrase, how I wanted it structured. But eventually I had probably 10 images I thought were quite amazing. And I would go around asking people which one they liked. Actually, nobody could, all of the pictures got voted on evenly. So I just chose my favorite. But I was amazed. It had a few shortcomings, because sometimes one of the things I've noticed about the AI in Substack and the image creation in Substack and in Photoshop is that it seems to misspell words on the images a lot, which is odd.
That's open. So that's open.
Because you think it would be tied in.
Yeah, so that's open AI, which everybody's using. Like what I've
Hmm.
noticed is Chat GPT recently has gotten way better with their image creation. And I find that if you
Okay.
use it on your phone, which is weird, it creates it so much better on your
Really?
phone. Yeah, than a desktop. Yeah, because
I'll try it next time.
I created a whole T-shirt line of graphics. I created all my logos. I've created now through ChatGPT. I create coins for like I'm doing a podcast course, and it's called part of it is about the Elite 21, which had to do with once you get to the 21st episode, you're in the top 1% of all
Hmm.
podcasts now because of the failure rate. And so I created a coin to give to them once they get there and stuff like that. And it's all was created through ChatGPT. If I would have had, it would have cost me tens of thousands of dollars to do any of the stuff I do now on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, I think we know that it has a lot of great potential, and it also has some destructive potential down the line.
So does everything.
At least as far as ending people's, I just worry about people losing their income to it. And let's face it, I know
That's
so many people whose kids graduated with a degree in graphics and stuff in the past 5 or 6 years. They're going to be using the AI, but I don't know if there's going to be a need for that many people anymore because one person can do the work of 5, 6, maybe 10 other graphics artists.
well, let's
You
put
know,
so there's a thing called Showrunner AI, which is about it's a place where you can create it's animations or cartoons, you know, kind of the Family Guy. What's that other one that's real big on TV that everybody watches? South Park, those
South
kind of
Park.
things. It's a new thing that will eventually, with a prompt, it'll create the whole show, the videos, everything. And right now they're doing it. They're doing a 5-week challenge where you create your thing. Well, I created my poster. I created the whole thing for that, and then I needed a theme. It was just something I was thinking about. Well, I found out suno.com. When you create a prompt in ChatGPT, you tell it you're using it, and you're like, okay, I want a theme show for this grumpy old men thing I'm doing, and it created the words, and then I created the prompt. I dropped it into Suno, and it created a whole song, and not
Mhm.
like amazing. And then I go, okay, let's do a Gundam style version of it. Let's do a jelly
Yeah.
roll version of it. You know, all these different
Yeah.
versions, and it was done in seconds. And that is what's going to kill so many people. But
Yeah.
there's that, but there's also this is the same thing they said about the car with the horses. You know, everything that
Well,
we've
you don't
gone.
see a lot of horses on the road anymore. So,
No, you don't. But I'm just saying things, but with nobody would. It's just something else is going to come from it, and that's where you're going to have. I don't, you know, think about it. We at our age, we've seen like things change every
that's what I
5 years, every couple of years now, and then we've had to
Yeah.
redefine who we are, what we're doing, what's the plan. You know, nobody stays with a company
Yeah.
forever anymore. They're mostly business owners. Well, what's that look like?
Right. Well, and I'll tell you, I'm 57. I was one of the first in the state of Georgia who was digitally editing, um, and because of that, which would have been early '90s, and it was expensive back then. The systems, but because of that, we made a lot of money because we had the abilities that most others hadn't caught up with, who were still using analog, and that's what I hope AI turns out to be, is that it just does springboard more opportunities. Now, by the way, was it Suno?
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever followed a guy on YouTube he's actually out of Atlanta. I've never met him. His name is Rick Beato. He teaches and interviews musicians, and he did the same thing. He did where he went in and asked it to write a song, and he even asked it to sing the song in different styles and different voices. And I got to tell you, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but that'll get better too
well,
as time goes on.
when we're done here, let me show it to you. what I've done.
Okay.
Because I don't want to take up from the show from what you're on here for. But what I use. So when I created all my stuff, I'm creating in Chat GPT, and then I told, okay, this is what I want to do. I need to do a theme song for this show, and it came with the words, and then and I said, I'm going to be using suno.com, suno, whatever. And so it was like, well, here's your prompt. Then just copy and drop it into the create your own song and hit button create. And that's all I did. So in seconds, it had it all. And then then I told it, what was it? I asked it, what was the top show out there theme song? And what was about the makeup of it? And then I said, now make that prompt. And then it did the same show in that version, and Gilligan's Island version, and Prince of Bel Air version, and Gangnam Style, and I mean so many different styles, because I asked it to change it. What about Guns N' Roses? Welcome to the Jungle. So it's Welcome to the Boardroom. Just the stuff it did was just shocking. That if I hired somebody to do it. First of all, for me to explain to them what I'm trying to do, is the biggest problem. And so they're saying right now, people who are graduating with liberal arts degree are going to make it better because they have the knowledge and they have an understanding of language and everything else, which is what you need going forward. Because we're only limited with AI by how we ask it.
Yeah. And you have to learn. That is one of the things when I was doing the pictures, you have to learn. I would literally keep a Word file open. I would copy what I had asked it, and I would see where the errors were, and then I'd copy it back and try and keep tinkering with it and seeing what the results were, and basically learning through trial and error. And sometimes you would get some really funky results that made no sense, but at least I figured out why it was giving me those results, and I could fix it. And one of the things that, like, I know that actually there's a lot of debate right now about the music coming through AI. Does somebody own the rights to that anymore? Because there's who gets the publishing? Is it the person who punched it into AI, or
exactly? Because right now I can publish everything. I can publish everything I created because there's a button you click that says publish, and I can publish it.
Supposedly on Spotify, I believe there is a song that was there's a whole group out there that doesn't exist. It was just an AI group.
Yeah, AI boy band, I think.
Yeah. But I just finished an article I'll publish on Substack soon, where this is really a gripe, but I use AI in the analogy that I keep hearing everyone in Hollywood complaining about AI is going to put people out of business, but I'm not seeing a lot of creativity lately coming out of there. I'm seeing mostly comic book stuff, remakes, 6th and 7th editions of a series. So maybe AI is what needs to jumpstart what's going on, because I don't see the creativity and some of it is because they put too many filters and roadblocks on what is funny or what can be done. But they worry too much about it. If they just get back to doing creative stuff. Now, I will say this, some of the stuff on Apple TV, we just discovered a lot of really good stuff on there, and Netflix does a good job of letting creators come on and do their thing without really tinkering too much with editing what they're doing. But I just don't see a lot of. I come from entertainment. I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was young, and I just don't see, like, if you go back and think about what's the last truly funny comedy movie. The only thing I can think of is The Hangover, but that was 2009. Can you think of a comedy since then that was hysterical and irreverent? Because that's what comedy is. Good comedy is irreverent. And, if you're thin-skinned about certain things, you probably aren't into comedy, but that's what comedy is.
Right. Well, that's like you say, Airplane never could get made today.
No. No. Think about the scene where the guys are speaking in jive. Would they allow that to go? And that's the sad part, is that, who thinks that's really funny? Oh, they're black people.
Yeah, well, everybody thinks it's funny when you make fun of who you are. It's just people who are trying to, be the righteous for somebody else.
Yes. Or what's the movie? It's the Ben Stiller movie where what's his name does blackface as he's supposed to be an actor playing a black. They're in the jungle.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. That's irreverent, but it makes fun of everybody equally. It makes fun of Hollywood. It makes fun of actors. It makes fun of.
I see us.
To me, that's okay.
I see us getting back.
I hope so. I heard they're remaking Basic Instinct, and they have decided to make it true to the original rather than trying to smooth it out, so to speak, for today's audience. And first of all, I don't think you don't need another Basic Instinct, but but if you're going to do it, at least do it right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like you look at you had Top Gun come out too, which was really good compared to the first one. I mean, it was how they tied it all together, and everything was really good. But there's people who aren't like that, like you say. There's certain shows that are not like that. Comedies alone, they're not, and they're not really that funny anymore. So they need to get back.
Yeah, they're not. And I will say this: Joe, say what you want about Tom Cruise. He either picks his movies or he picks his writers well. He just does. And, I haven't seen all the Mission Impossibles. I don't think we need any more of those either, but they do well, and they seem to be a good franchise for him, that he is definitely pushing the envelope a lot of times.
Well, I think he's involved more than on those, like he's part owner of those things. But the last one that came out put the whole series to bed. Basically,
they did. That's the one where he jumped the motorcycle and then parachuted.
Yeah, the one was the last. So there was a part 1 and part 2 that just came out. That's a part, finishing of it, and it ties it all together for all this Mission Impossible back he was in. Yeah, so it was.
I've heard there's going to be a third Top Gun coming, or they're trying to get him to do a third. I don't know if that's been agreed upon. I also saw where they're redoing Smokey and the Bandit.
That would be good. But they're probably going to have different actors be the bandit.
It will. Yeah. There will. I don't know. I think Will Smith is the bandit.
No, move on. We want somebody else. We do.
Maybe they can have him slapping a Smokey.
No, we need a better Will Smith is not going to be a good bandit. No one's going to watch that after what he did.
I get it. But you know what happens in Hollywood? You have to find the name. I once interviewed William Goldman, and I don't know if you know who he is. If you look up his name, the amount of screenplays that he has written that were brilliant, from Misery to whatever. He told me one time, he said, he's like, you write a script and you get it and you go, oh, it's so beautiful. It's so good. It's so perfect. Everything about it comes together. And he's like, and then the producers looks at it and says, I love it. Let's get it made. And then he says, they call you back and they say, well, we got this celebrity who wants to play it. That means we can get it greenlit. But the celebrity wants to make sure that he gets this much screen time. So I need you to cut these scenes, add this. And then you go out and you find a celebrity who's going to be the co-star, and the co-star says, why am I not getting any more screen time than this? And he said, okay, you need to add some of this back, and we'll cut this other scene. And he said, by the time you get the movie made, it looks nothing like what you wrote to start with. I believe. And he said, it's maddening, but if you're going to work in that business, he said, you just have to settle in with it. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at, what was that? Happy Gilmore 2 that came out on Netflix. It was not in any way as funny as the first one.
They didn't need another Happy Gilmore, but I guess.
Well, I said the funny part about it was all the scenes from the first one that was in it. That was the best part of the movie.
I've deliberately not watched it because I don't want to ruin the first one. I know that Adam got that that long deal with Netflix to produce. I think was it 8 ones with Jennifer Ann. But I just think that I don't understand why we're redoing all of these. It's because they don't have any new stories. And one of the problems with doing the stories, because when I was doing TV, one of the things that I used to tell somebody, my least favorite phone call is the one where the producers call or the studio calls up and says, you know what you should do? And I'd always be like, oh, please tell me. And they would always want, I remember we were doing a comedy golf show where it was a travel show. And it was really about travel golf, like traveling to destinations with 4 buddies. And it was funny. Like we had comedians, we had radio DJs, because people who could talk and be interesting. And I remember this one gentleman who I looked up and had never done anything, but he's now telling us our show needs some things. And he was like, you know what you need is every time you go to a new golf destination, the golf pro in the golf shop is the same guy. And I was like, you mean like Isaac from Love Boat? He's like, yeah, that would be funny. I'm like, no, that really wouldn't be. See, Isaac was on the same ship. It was kind of stupid that he worked in the morning and then he was working at night also, but he was on the same ship as an employee, so they could kind of get away with that. I said, we're going to be in Oregon and then we go to Florida and it's the same golf pro. That might be funny once. That he really held true to, but I wouldn't do it. And so we had to find someone else to help produce the show. And it's just that kind of stuff that I had this epiphany once, that the people who are sitting there telling you what to do wanted to do what you're doing. They didn't get the opportunity, but because they weren't good enough or creative enough. And now they want to tell you what to do so that when the show is on the air on TV, they can tell their friends or their girlfriend, look, you see that right there? That was my idea. It's getting their stuff in the production. And it's that way even when I did a corporate video once for ISS, Internet Security Systems. And at the time they were huge. IBM ended up buying them and making Chris Klaus, the founder, a very wealthy young man. I think he was the first multi-millionaire under 21. But they greenlit a video to show what ISS was about to other major corporations. And if you don't know what it was about, they did internet security for major companies. So like the World Bank doesn't buy McAfee. You have actual people watching in a room, watching all the logins and getting flagged, and they can cut, somebody or ditch an IP address or whatever in real time. And I think the production was greenlit for $35,000. It was just a corporate video to show what they did. It was going to be 3 minutes long. And at the top of the board, the top of the A suite, they came up, we had a whole storyboard. It literally told us what the colors of the logo would be, the colors of the map that showed their offices would be. The script was in there. Everything is in there. All we have to do is do this, because that's what was approved. But then they give it to the C-suite to get it done and present it to them when it's finished. Well, everybody in the C-suite boardroom wants their name or their input on it so they can brag about it. The video was supposed to take 3 months to shoot and edit. A year and 7 months later, we haven't finished editing. This was the most expensive corporate video ever, because we re-edited that entire video 62 times. And when we finally went to the A suite, they looked at it and said, this is nothing like what we approved. Change it back. That was the 60-second edit. They literally changed the colors of the maps, the name, the logos, and it all got changed back. And they ended up paying us a ton of money they didn't need to pay, but it's because everybody along the chain on the way up wants to put their mark on it. And it's like a human thing. Everybody wants to say, that's me. I did that.
Yeah, it's too bad.
That was my idea right there.
Brian, how do people?
And there's no way to fix that, by the way. You can go to BryanThomasWetzel.com. It's BryanThomas and WETZEL.com. That'll get you to my Substack, to my Twitters, my Facebooks, my who knows what else. It'll get you everywhere. I'll find the books that I've got out, and I have a new one that'll probably come out late next year. I think this one will be on Forbes Publishing, and it's really just a small business guide to mistakes that a lot of small business owners make that hurt their success. It's part of a video series I did, and we're just transferring it into print.
Wow. Are you going to do a course from it or anything?
I don't really. I do I used to do 2 or 3 times a year. I would do a speech to small business owners or people wanting to open small business through a thing called Sage. And I would literally just go through all these, and then I would have people raise their hand if they were doing this, and I would say, well, stop it. That's wrong. And start off with how many created a business plan. And if they didn't raise their hand, I would say, well, then you don't need to be doing a business, because you don't have a map. You don't have a plan for how you're going to deal with everything. You just can't run a small business up here unless you're just doing a business out of your home making jewelry. It's complicated to do a small business if you want to do it right, and you should put it down on paper and see if it works. When the gym, I never wanted to own a gym. I was working out at this little gym near my home. I was consulting for a major media company in Atlanta, and the owner put up a sign saying, I'm closing in a month. And people were like, you should buy it. I don't know why they told me I should buy it, but they wanted me to buy it. And I was like, I don't want to own a gym. But I thought about it for a bit, and I told the landlord of the building, I said, look, give me the weekend. I'm going to do a business plan and just put some numbers down, put some stuff about what would have to happen to get this business up and running again. And if it works out on paper, then I'll consider it. But if it doesn't work out on paper, then there's no point in me spending that much time and aggravation and money to do something that I don't think has a shot at working. And that's how everybody should start their small business. If you're watching, you just don't go into it with no plan.
Right. And if you don't know how to write a plan, guess who does? AI.
Yes. AI does. There's actually a company called LivePlan.
Yeah, but you don't even, you just tell them.
They don't sponsor me or anything. I use them.
Yeah.
I think they have AI built into it now.
Yeah, you just can go to ChatGPT and say this is the business you want to start. What do you need to know? You need a business plan, a marketing plan, all that, and it will create it in seconds and go through it, and then you can tell it what's the first, ask it to do a whole step process and everything else, and it's amazing what you can get. Because I do another podcast, and we were doing a whole training for sales from it, and I created a whole training for sales and the whole plan and everything else within 15 minutes, sitting in my big chair watching TV one night going, okay, this was easy. This is too easy now. We have no reason to not do these things if it's that easy to get access to it.
From my perspective, I want you to write it because I want you to actually think about it, not just have something say doable.
Yeah, but that's...
Now, I may be wrong about that, but maybe I'm just old school.
No, you're fine, but if it's writing the plan, you can tell it to ask you the questions so you can help write the plan.
I get it. I haven't done it that way, so I'm making an outside judgment. That's probably like I said.
I've been playing with this.
I probably sound like my dad when I told him, in my day we didn't do it that way. You had to write it with a pencil.
We walked both ways to school uphill in the snow.
Yes.
We didn't take a car. No, don't ride.
Yes. We didn't take the easy way out like you kids today.
That's right. What I'm getting at is because most people will hire somebody to help them write a plan, or they'll do this because that's not their forte. And you
don't need to do that for a small business. That's too expensive. If you're going to go out and get investors to give you millions of bucks, that's probably a good idea.
Well, I'm just saying some people have no idea what to ask or anything, but anything you try to do with AI, you can, when you're asking, so everybody was saying SEO is dead. And because everybody's searching through ChatGPT now. And so I was asking all these people, how do, ChatGPT and all these AIs find people now, because if they don't use SEO anymore, and they're like, well, we think it's this, we think it's that. I go, have you ever asked it? And so I just ended up asking it, and it told me everything to do to make sure my thing was being found. It's not that difficult. Just ask the thing that's alive what you need to do.
I think that this podcast has taught me more than I taught you. I'm going to try it.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's because people ask all the time, well, I don't know how. Just ask it how you should ask it certain things.
Yeah.
And create.
Are you talking to it like a human being, or are you phrasing it?
Well, it depends. Depends. Like I use it, like I did a firewalk for veterans, and I did an after action report. So during the event, I'm like, this is all right. I'm doing I talked to the actual thing saying, this is my after action report. I'm going to just drop a bunch of stuff here at the end. I want you to put together the after action report. And it did. I didn't have to write all this stuff down, type it in a computer. It was done. And then I was able to send it to everybody else. I told everybody else, do the same thing. That way we can put it all together and have it write a full report after the end.
Yeah. I have some stuff that does that too. It's not ChatGPT, but it's done through AI that prints out data and stuff.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's
for me to analyze. I'm big on data.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about, so I do a lot of.
You might as well use it because everyone's going to use it to beat you. Is what.
That's right. Exactly. The person, so you don't have to worry about getting put out of business. You have to worry about being put out of business by the person who does what you do now with AI. They're smarter than you.
Yeah,
because they're using the AI. They're faster at things. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to win, you always want to take the advantages. So
that's correct.
Yes.
So basically what we're talking about, use AI, use everything that's out there for your advantage. And just, if you don't know how to use it, ask it how to use it, and it will tell you. It's totally different than it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, it was difficult, totally different than it is now. Bryan, thanks for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. Everybody go check out Bryan. Go down in the show notes, get his web address. I think it was BryanThomasWetzel.com. Correct?
That's correct.
All right, go check. If you can't write it down that fast, just look below. And again, Bryan, thanks so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Ed.
My pleasure.